In this episode of Locked On Capitals, the Washington Capitals' backs are up against a wall. They must win tonight or it's season over. We'll talk about all of that and more next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all platforms, and I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Yes, this podcast is also available in video form, so head on over to YouTube and check it out. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in today's episode, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the roadmap for the Washington Capitals' success. Yes, I know the Washington Capitals' backs are up against a wall, but there is a narrow path they can follow if they want to win tonight. We'll talk about that. Then later in the show, we're going to hear what TJ Oshie thinks. What are his thoughts about the play as of late? And then in the final segment there, we are going to hear from Peter Laviolette and what is his thoughts about the Washington Capitals. So to start it off here, like I say, the Washington Capitals' backs are up against a wall, but this is a familiar place, isn't it? They're no stranger to being in this kind of position. If you think back to the 2018 season, everyone was talking about how when they were playing Columbus that, they're going to lose and, it's game over and, they better just pack it up and think about doing something else. Well, guess what? The Washington Capitals defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets. They moved on. Then they played Tampa. Another one, they thought there's no way that particular year the Tampa Bay Lightning played very well against the Washington Capitals. That's kind of a common thing. That's no real surprise there. But in 2018 as well, they also played well against the Capitals. So they said, they got lucky getting past Columbus. But now they're facing the Tampa Bay Lightning. There is no way they will get past the Tampa Bay Lightning. Guess what? They did it. And, that was the whole season. That season, I was pinching myself saying this is too good to be true. Now they are facing the Golden Knights. Yes, the Golden Knights, they were great that particular season. And everyone was saying, they got lucky getting past Columbus, getting past Tampa. But now they're facing the Golden Knights, and there's no chance that they will get past them. But guess what? The Washington Capitals beat them against all odds. That was a tough road if you look back statistically on that. A lot of those games got played all the way to the end there as well. So that's what I'm talking about. And how this relates to this season is I know it's Game 6, and this is a must-win game. I know what I said about Game 5 being a must-win, but actually, in all reality, this is a must-win for the Washington Capitals, or it will be over for this season. There's no two ways about it. So what the Washington Capitals have to do is they have to shore up a lot of the play that they had out there. They weren't getting enough shots on net. That's the biggest thing. If you just take a look at the statistically, they just were not getting enough shots on net. So that's what they have to do is they have to keep hitting Bobrovsky from every angle possible. That is the book on him. That is what they have to do. And then just take a look at, they have to keep their foot on the gas. That's the biggest thing about this team is they have to keep their foot on the gas. If you take a look at this last game, if you look at it, they were up at the end of the first period. There's no reason they couldn't have just rode that one right into the third period and then called it a win. But guess what? They lost focus. That's what the Washington Capitals have to do in this Game 6. Winner takes all. I know that there could be a Game 7, but you know what I'm talking about. If the Washington Capitals want to make it that far, they have got to win tonight. And there's no real option. They have to win tonight. I know that this team can do it. A lot of these same players that played in 2018 when their backs were up against a wall in those series as well, they're still on this Washington Capitals, and they know how to win, and they're going to do it. So there's a lot of negativity around it, and I can get negative myself, but, you have to pull some positivity out of all this. You have Alex Ovechkin, you have Nick Backstrom, you have TJ Oshie, you have John Carlson. Just think about that loaded team that they have out there, and just the real potential. There is a ton of teams out there that would love nothing more than to have that lineup on their team. Alex Ovechkin will be revered as the greatest goal scorer of all time, and he's playing for your Washington Capitals. Let's not forget about it. So rally the troops and get used to the fact the Washington Capitals will win tonight if they follow the script, but they cannot do what they did the last couple games of playing sloppy and losing focus, because let's face it, the last game, that was their game for the taking, and that they, like I say, they took their eye off the ball, and that's why they lost. And that's what they're going to have to work on. And they're not going to have to, they're going to have to stop getting drawn into these stupid penalties, these traps that the Florida Panthers lay out in front of them, or it will be season over, and then it will be over. So I'm not going to talk about what's going to happen next year, what's going to happen in the offseason. What we are going to concentrate on right now, Caps Nation, is how are we going to win tonight? And they will win tonight if they do the things that I talked about. So what is the book on the Florida Panthers? I've talked about it this entire series, is Bobrovsky. He will get start tonight. There's no doubt about it, but his Achilles is in the playoffs. He plays well during the entire season, but then when it gets to the playoffs, for whatever reason, he doesn't play that well. And I know that hasn't been shown to be true in this playoff series, but they also haven't been hitting him with those correct amount of shots in order to be effective. So in a lot of cases, Bobrovsky can kind of just sit back and, he doesn't have to do anything very spectacular. So that's what the Washington Capitals have to do. They have to hit him from many different angles. And if you look at the book on the shot comparison between the Panthers and the Washington Capitals, it's a very different. So that's what they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to work on, like I say, because they have the Washington Capitals number. They know what they have to do. Their book on the Washington Capitals is draw them into a physical thing. Garnet Hathaway will not step away from a fight or a mix-up in the corner. That's the book on him. So the Washington Capitals are going to have to play smarter if they're going to win, and they're going to have to get more shots on net, period. And then they're going to have to hope that they can get consistent net minding tonight, whoever that may be. I know that I've listened to a lot of the different podcasts and a lot of different shows on NHL Network, and many of them are saying they should stick with Ilya Samsonov. And if you look at the last couple games, he did keep the Washington Capitals in the games. I mean, you can take a look at the score from the last game and go, Dan, what are you talking about? It was kind of a blowout. Yes, but also the Washington Capitals were not doing their part on offense to score enough goals to get him enough run support so that he can actually win a game. The goalie can only do so much. He can't, be a forward and a defenseman and also play the net. So just we can't put all of it on his shoulders. I said in the last podcast that maybe they should look for a momentum change, and I still kind of stand behind that statement because as sure as I'm sitting here right now, if the Washington Capitals lose tonight and it's Ilya Samsonov in net, they're going to say, if they would have only gone with Vitek Vanacek, they would have won this series, and that would have been all over social media. I have no doubt. So that's why I think they need to go with Vitek Vanacek. And I know that, history has kind of a way of rewriting itself, but Vitek Vanacek actually played rather well throughout the season. And I just think that's the biggest thing. I mean, if you take a look at the team, they got 100 points between Samsonov and Vanacek. So cumulatively between the both of them, they can actually string together some wins. Standing on their own in a vacuum, not so much. So if they have to go back to Vanacek, I mean, they're out of options right now. I've heard things online, and I've talked about going with Fucale or Hunter Shepard. Game 6 of the playoffs is not the right time to do this. They should have done this towards the end of the season and figured out if Hunter Shepard or Zach Fucale would have been a better option, but there is no coach in the NHL that is going to go with an AHL goaltender in Game 6, winner takes all kind of situation. It's just not going to happen unless one of the goalies was injured or something like that. And I know what you're saying. A lot of people are like, yeah, you're right. They should have Fucale in there. Now is not the right time to do that. They should have done that towards the end of the season, sussed it out, decided who was the best netminder. The Capitals are all in on Vanacek and Samsonov, and that who is who they're going to ride in this. Come hell or high tide, it's Vanacek or Samsonov time tonight. And I hope that one of them is up for the task. So, they can move on to the next round because, like I say, a quick exit is going to leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth, and that is not what the Washington Capitals want. And I do believe that they can win. They won game 1, and they've won 2 games in this series, so their backs are up against a wall. I get it, but their backs were up against a wall in Columbus, in Tampa, in Vegas in 2018. They won. They won the Stanley Cup. Alex Ovechkin was hoisting the cup over his head. I think they can do it again. Caps Nation, let's be strong with me here. Let's think that they can do it. Let's not go into negativity. I know that that's an easy road to follow. The positive road is a narrow one, and it's a hard one to stick with, but you're going to have to try to be positive. I can't guarantee a win, but I can't guarantee a loss either. So it's a 50-50 either way. If you take a look at this series, if the Washington Capitals had not won a game, then I could see what the concern is about. But they've won 2 games so far in this series, so all is not doom and gloom. I think there is a road for them to move on to the next round, but they have to play Capitals hockey. And what is Capitals hockey? It's playing a good game out there. It's getting shots on net. It's playing good defense, and it's having great net minding. That's what the Washington Capitals have to do. They have to make it past this game. That's what it's all about. There is no option for failure tonight. 0 chance for failure. And if you look at it in those terms that I cannot fail tonight, I think it makes it a lot more easier. If you're skating out there and you're a Washington Capitals and you keep looking at the players, maybe have a players meeting before. Remember when TJ Oshie talked about having that players meeting and the great outcome that had? Have a come to Jesus moment with the players and say, gather around the campfire here. Let's get our poop in a group here. I was going to say something else, but this is, a family show. And let's figure out what is going on out there. It worked for TJ Oshie before. This is the team. They did it in 2018, and I really think that they can do it again. But they're going to have to just keep their eye on the ball if they want to move on to the next round, and I think that they can do it. All right, after the break here, I'm going to talk about TJ Oshie and what are his thoughts about the play as of late. But first, imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That is what it's like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. I just received my birthday cake puffs, and I have never had anything like this before. They're available right now, and we can't promise that they will be there tomorrow, so get them today at Built.com. And if you haven't tried the puffs, I'll let you know on a little secret, because that's what friends do. A chocolate-covered marshmallow protein bar. Yeah, you heard me. Delicious flavored marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. My mouth is watering just talking about this. Make every day your birthday with Built's birthday cake puffs. Built has taken the delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake enrobed in 100% white chocolate and added sprinkles with 150 calories, 16 grams of protein. That's the biggest thing. Not all the garbage that's in a candy bar, and only 9 grams of sugar. This limited time flavor is an amazing option if you're looking for a healthy way to get flavor and a variety in your day. All Built bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means that Built, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. And they are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of healthy benefits. Go to Built.com to get birthday cake puffs right now. How great is that? If you haven't tried Built bars yet, imagine birthday cake. I have to get this very soon. I tried a sample of it the other day. It was just a sample. I wasn't able to get an accurate depiction, but the small amount that I had was delicious, and you're going to love it. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcasts, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so in this segment, we are going to talk about TJ Oshie and what are his thoughts about how the Washington Capitals have played. I can blather on here all day telling you what I think about the Washington Capitals, but what do the players think? Let's talk about that. We've got to shake this one off. I think we're still showing ourselves how we have to play in creating chances, creating offense, keeping their offense in check. We keep getting away from it. Oshie said bluntly, we've got to reset here. Obviously, you don't want to be down 3-2, especially when we felt like we had a chance to go up 3-1 in the last game. You just have to regroup, and that's what I was talking about in the first segment. You have to brush it off. You have no choice. If you want to move on to the next round, you must win this game. Failure is not an option. We got caught on a couple of mistakes of us not making the right play, Oshie said, who had a tough neutral zone turnover that led to the Panthers' first goal of the game, and said, kind of making either a hop for or leaving the position that I know we're not supposed to leave. Kind of shot ourselves in the foot. They're a great team. Can't give them the offense. They're going to find a way to create something on their own. And if you take a look at that Panthers team, they are stacked from floor to the rafters with goal scoring power. So, like TJ Oshie said there, they cannot do stupid things by coughing up the puck in the neutral zone. We're going to give Oshie a bit of a pass on that because he is an amazing player. And, everyone is human and they're apt to make mistakes. And I will say that 9 times out of 10, Oshie exercises sound judgment and plays very well. So I'm not going to get down on TJ Oshie. Giving up a 3-goal lead, I don't know how many times we've done that this year. Number 77 added in the playoffs. It should be easier to keep playing the same way and getting pucks deep and all that. But yeah, this swings momentum. They're tough in a game. When it's on your side, you've got to try and keep it and not give the momentum to them. Make them earn it. We've got a veteran group here, Oshie said, a bunch of guys with a lot of character. And that kind of just reiterates what I was talking about in that first segment there, that this Capitals team can do it. I do believe it. I don't just say it. I believe it. If I looked at this, I remember watching the 2018 series and there was some doubt that crept in. But then there were so many big marquee moments. Braden Holtby, Lars Eller's late moment heroics, so many things. Alex Ovechkin stepping up big time. So just have faith in this team. Just like TJ Oshie said, failure is not an option. And if you look at it in those terms that I will not fail, I have to win, it makes it that much easier because you can't sit there and just worry about things that might or might not happen. It's just looking at the film, addressing those errors. It looks like he's already done that. He's acknowledged that he made that error in the neutral zone. All right, now clean it up. That's what you got to do. And that's big on him for showing that level of maturity. Just to acknowledge that, yes, I made a mistake, and yes, I am going to work hard on fixing it. And that's the one thing that I will say is I do hope they have one of those players meetings because Peter Laviolette can only do so much. He can't put the skates on and win the games for him. He can only give his best coaching tactics out there, but it's ultimately up to the Capitals to execute those tactics. And I think that they can do it. This isn't like some young rebuild team. This isn't the Rangers, that is pretty much laden with young players. This is a veteran core of players that know how to win on the big stage. They've proven it time and time again. And I think they can do it tonight. And it's going to get pushed to the final game. And I think that the Capitals will be victorious. But they got to stick to the script and they can't fall into those traps. And I think the Capitals can do it. Prove me right that they can do it, Washington Capitals. I really hope that is the case because it's too early for the offseason, and I don't really care to watch these other teams play. I do love watching postseason hockey, but I am not ready for it. I am ready to watch the Washington Capitals make a deep push. All right, after the break here, we are going to hear what Peter Laviolette had to say. What are his thoughts on how the Washington Capitals are playing? We'll talk about that, but first, our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, in this final segment, let's hear what Peter Laviolette has to say. What are his thoughts about the play? Leadership starts on top and works its way down. That's not saying anything real novel, is it? It just seems like a no-brainer, but it's true. If the coach is negative, the players will be negative, so you must remain positive in this game 6. We will go back and look at it. There was the game to push it to 3-0, where I liked everything we did, including the power play and the penalty kill and the 5-on-5. And then there was the game that took place after that, where if you play against a team like Florida, there is a high octane team. We were just feeding them, and we can't do that. We got to push back in the first part of the game, and you got to play it consistently for 60 minutes. And that is a cliche and a thing that you hear quite often, but it's true. Is that if you're playing hockey in general, you have to play a 60-minute game. You can't just win a period and expect to win the game. And I think that ultimately that's what the Washington Capitals thought was going to happen. They looked at it and they're like, oh my gosh, we're up by a bunch of points here. We're up 3-0. We can just sail into the end of the game. Not the case. And the Florida Panthers proved it. those goals last night on Sammy were tough, Laviolette said. We left him in tough situation, and on those particular instances where the puck ends up in the net, I think there's things we could have done better. I don't necessarily sit there and say it was goaltending last night that let us down. We shot ourselves in the foot. So again, that's where we have to clean it up. And that's what was talking about there too, is Ilya Samsonov. He didn't make all those mistakes that everyone thinks. So if you just looked at the stats and you looked at the score, you would say, well, what are you talking about? The Capitals lost by a large margin. But also, like I said, they allowed a lot of stupid plays out there. They coughed up the puck, and they weren't getting enough shots on net. So you can't put that on Ilya Samsonov. He can only do what he can do. Thought we did a better job of possessing the puck and staying in the offensive zone and hunting for offense. That's the game we need to play, Laviolette said, adding, we have to take care of things against a high-powered team that scored a lot of goals this year. So when we're at it, we need to do a better job inside the game. We're not doing it. That's when they get looks and they get opportunities, Laviolette said. We scored 5-on-5 goals. We scored some power play goals. I think it's consistent reminder that we always have to think about the defense side of things. And, that's what I'm talking about. They can't cough up the puck, and they have to find a way to contain the Florida Panthers, who have all that goal scoring power. The momentum is the Panthers. The Washington Capitals have got to find a way to take it back from them if they want to move on. We've got to win a hockey game. Then there's things that we did well in this series. And then there's things we haven't done well. Last night was no different. We've got to take those things that we did well and positives and bring that out in a more consistent amount of time. And that's kind of stating the obvious, isn't it? A lot of these guys have been here before. Everyone's still feeling it last night. I'd mentioned it. The day in between is the day that you kind of get in your own system, move on, and then recover. There should be a lot of confidence from the things that we have done well in this series, the games that we have won, the times that we played well, but you really have to work for a clean game against a team like Florida, who's dynamic and with a will to win. Again, those will be points of emphasis moving forward, and they've got to do it. I oftentimes hear about this window that's closing for Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals, and how are they going to do it? How are they going to move on? And there is a window that's open right now, and we ultimately don't know how much more time we have with Alex Ovechkin. I know that he signed a newer contract there, but ultimately the players around him are getting older, and that's what they have to do. They have to win now. So when they say it's win now mode, it is. I do wish that the Washington Capitals would have done something to address the goaltending situation by the trade deadline. They did not. So with that in mind, they're all in on Samsonov and Vanacek. It's up to them to get the win. That's what I said. That's what I'm talking about here. There is no room for failure. This is must win tonight. I think they can do it. And everyone out there, just cheer as much as you possibly can. And if you're at the game, just make as much noise as you possibly can. That's what you're going to have to try to get in those Panthers' head and rat them a little bit. I know that they've had the advantage of playing at home recently here, and it's sometimes easy to feed off that energy from the crowd. The Washington Capitals have playing at home. They have their fans, so hopefully the fans show up and really just kind of let the Florida Panthers say, no, not in our barn. You're not going to win here. And I think the Capitals can do it. I really believe that they can. It's just that they have to stick to the script and follow what's ahead of them, and just do what they did when they won the games in this series. Just take a look at those games and figure out what the Panthers did wrong and the Capitals did right and kind of duplicate it. It seems so simple, but you're playing the same team. It's not like you have to prepare for another team. You're playing the same team through this entire series. All right, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals. Let's really hope for a win tonight. I do think it's possible, like I said. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL, from first-round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss. Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from our local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'll talk to you next time.